34 legendary sea creatures that really existed. More than half of our planet lies beneath water we've barely explored. Entire mountain ranges, trenches, and ecosystems exist where no human has ever looked. Sailors once returned with reports of massive shapes moving beneath their ships. They called them monsters. This video explores 34 legendary sea creatures from cultures around the world, and how some of these myths may have begun with real encounters. Hashtag 34 El Gran Maja. Far north, where the Arctic ice stretches for miles, sound travels in strange ways. Researchers studying the ocean floor have sometimes recorded deep, low vibrations moving beneath the frozen surface. The signals do not behave like normal whale calls or shifting ice. They feel distant, heavy, almost mechanical. For years, sailors and ice crews told quiet stories of something large moving slowly under the ice sheets, never visible for long. Legends describe El Gran Maja as a massive shape drifting in those waters, too large to fully surface, too deep to clearly observe. Science offers more grounded possibilities. Under ice earthquakes, pressure acoustics, and even giant squid moving through narrow channels can produce sounds that seem alive. In such a remote place, with almost no human presence, unfamiliar movement quickly becomes myth. The Arctic keeps its distance from us, and that silence alone is enough to leave a lingering sense that something enormous still passes beneath it. Hashtag 33 mermaids/sirens. Certain marine mammals have features that can appear unexpectedly human from a distance. Manatees and dugongs rise slowly near the surface. Their rounded heads and forward-facing eyes are visible for only a few seconds before they slip back under the water. In fading evening light, their movements can seem deliberate, almost watchful. Long voyages made these encounters harder to interpret. Fatigue, dehydration, and isolation shaped what sailors believed they were seeing. Over time, these brief sightings grew into stories of sirens, beings with human forms said to appear beside ships and draw sailors closer. The sea at dusk encourages that kind of confusion, where shapes blend into shadows and sound travels strangely across open water. Even today, when the surface reflects the sky and movement happens just below it, the boundary between animal and legend can feel thin, leaving the impression that something familiar may still be watching from beneath. Hashtag 32 Sea Eater. There are moments at sea when the water rises without warning. Not a storm, not a visible wave building in the distance, just a sudden wall of moving ocean. Ships caught in these conditions describe the experience as being swallowed, the horizon disappearing in seconds. Stories grew of a creature known as the Sea Eater, something that opened its path through the water and pulled entire vessels down. Oceanographers later found natural forces that could explain such fear. Rogue waves can form when currents and winds collide, creating towering walls of water that appear from nowhere. Underwater landslides can shift entire sections of the seabed, sending shock waves upward. To those who lived through it, the cause mattered less than the feeling. The open ocean offers no shelter, no reference point, only motion. Standing in front of that vast power leaves a quiet understanding that the sea does not need monsters to feel overwhelming, and its scale alone can leave anyone in awe. Hashtag 31 Kraken. Giant squid and colossal squid inhabit some of the deepest parts of the ocean, moving through cold water far below sunlight. They are rarely seen alive, and most of what we know comes from fragments washed ashore or from scars left on whales. Their arms are long and powerful, lined with suction cups edged with small teeth, built for gripping prey in total darkness. Even today, encounters with them are limited and brief. Long before science identified these animals, sailors described ships being pulled off course, ropes tightening as something heavy moved below. In Nordic waters, these experiences became stories of the Kraken, a vast presence rising from the sea and coiling around wooden hulls. The myth gave shape to a force people could feel but not see. Some encounters can now be explained through known marine life. Yet the deep ocean still hides much of its activity. What moves through those waters is not always observed clearly, and that uncertainty has never fully disappeared. Hashtag 30 Jormungandr. Some sailors once reported seeing a shape along the horizon that did not behave like a wave. It stretched, curved, and seemed to continue beyond sight, as if the ocean itself had formed a living line. In Norse legend, this became Jormungandr, the great serpent said to circle the entire world, holding the seas in its grip. While no snake surrounds the planet, the ocean does hold animals that challenge our sense of scale. Oarfish can grow over 30 feet long, their ribbon-like bodies moving in slow, undulating patterns near the surface. Massive eels also inhabit deep waters, surfacing only rarely. When seen from a distance, a long body rising and falling through swells can appear endless. Human perception struggles with size at sea. With no buildings or trees for comparison, even a single large animal can seem impossible. That distortion of scale is powerful, and it helps explain why some stories still feel larger than life. But size was only the beginning. What's coming next was even stranger. Hashtag 29 Umibozu. Storms off the coast of Japan have long carried their own legends. Sailors spoke of a dark shape rising straight from the water, smooth and round, like a monk's shaved head. They called it Umibozu, a faceless sea spirit that appeared during rough weather and overturned boats without warning. The description was simple yet unsettling. No features, no expression, just a silent black mass. Modern explanations are less supernatural but still compelling. Large waves can form steep, vertical shapes in low light, especially during heavy rain. Shadows cast by clouds and lightning can make those shapes seem solid. In some cases, whales surfacing through storm-driven water may appear as a single rising figure before submerging again. Fear fills in the rest. In violent weather, every movement feels intentional. The sea does not need a face to feel alive, and that uncertainty has always given it a presence that is difficult to ignore. Hashtag 28 Vasuki indicus. Fossil evidence shows that giant snakes once ruled warm prehistoric landscapes. Titanoboa, discovered in South America, stretched over 40 feet long, its body thick and muscular enough to overpower large prey. Similar remains found in parts of Asia suggest that massive serpents were not isolated to one region. In ancient climates, such reptiles could thrive near swamps and slow rivers, moving with surprising control through water and mud. Long before paleontology gave these animals names, stories in India spoke of Vasuki, a serpent king powerful enough to coil around mountains and churn the oceans. He was described as immense and enduring, a presence woven into creation itself. When you consider the scale of the creatures that once existed, the boundary between fossil and legend narrows. Giant snakes are extinct, yet the image of heavy coils shifting beneath dark water does not feel entirely distant. Hashtag 27 Leviathan. Sometimes the ocean surface breaks with such force that it feels deliberate. A surge of water rises, foam bursts outward, and for a moment, the sea looks disturbed by something heavy beneath it. In ancient texts, that power was called Leviathan, a sea beast described as untamable and beyond human control. It symbolized strength that no weapon could match. Modern science has revealed predators that help explain how such legends began. Fossils of Leviathan melvillei show a massive prehistoric whale with teeth nearly a foot long. It hunted other whales and shared ancient seas with giant sharks like Megalodon. These were not gentle filter feeders, but active hunters built for combat. When people later discovered large fossilized bones, the scale alone would have seemed overwhelming. Leviathan may not rise from today's oceans, but its real counterparts once did, and their existence reminds us how powerful life in the sea has truly been. Hashtag 26 Cthulhu. Far below the reach of sunlight, the ocean becomes a world of pressure and darkness. Movement there is almost impossible to observe directly. When something large passes through that black water, even modern instruments struggle to capture it clearly. The idea of a sleeping entity resting in the deep has fascinated people for generations. In fiction, Cthulhu became a symbol of that hidden ancient presence. While the myth itself is modern, its inspiration is rooted in real biology. Prehistoric seas were filled with enormous cephalopods, relatives of today's squid and octopus. Some grew to sizes that would challenge our expectations. Even now, giant and colossal squid inhabit deep waters, rarely seen alive and mostly known from fragments recovered by chance. The ocean floor still hides species we have barely studied. When you consider how little of the deep sea has been explored, the thought of something vast moving silently in the dark does not feel exaggerated. It feels humbling. But not every shadow waits in the abyss. What's coming next rises wide and winged beneath the boat. Hashtag 25 Devilfish. Manta rays can grow several meters across, their wide pectoral fins moving in slow, steady motions that resemble wings beneath the surface. From above, especially in low light, their dark bodies spread wider than a small boat, turning silently before disappearing into deeper water. They are powerful but generally calm animals, gliding through warm seas with little disturbance. Before marine biology described them clearly, sailors gave these encounters a different meaning. They called the shape beneath their hulls the devil fish, convinced it could rise without warning and pull a swimmer under. The fear came not from aggression, but from size and silence. Even now, when a broad shadow passes below a boat, the moment feels larger than explanation. The ocean does not always reveal what moves beneath it, and that brief uncertainty is enough to keep the old name lingering. Hashtag 24 Loch Ness Monster. On calm mornings, mist settles over the surface of Loch Ness, turning the water into a shifting mirror. In that haze, people have reported seeing a long neck rising briefly before slipping under again. Over time, the sightings formed the legend of a creature living in the lake, hidden from clear view, but returning just often enough to be remembered. Some researchers believe this image may have been shaped by fossil discoveries. Plesiosaurs, marine reptiles with long necks and paddle-like limbs, lived millions of years ago. When ancient bones were uncovered without full understanding, it was easy to imagine similar animals still existing in remote waters. The lake itself is deep, cold, and difficult to fully explore, which adds to the mystery. No clear evidence confirms the creature, yet the setting keeps the idea alive. A quiet lake holding such a persistent story reminds us how easily nature and imagination blend into something enduring. #Chuetre-Nuken. In northern forests and quiet lakes, the water can look perfectly still. There are no waves, no sound, only a dark surface reflecting the sky. In such places, people have vanished without struggle or warning. Scandinavian folklore gave that fear a name of Nuken, a spirit said to live in the water, waiting silently and pulling victims below. The truth behind these stories may be simpler, but no less serious. Cold water drowning can happen quickly, even to strong swimmers. Sudden currents beneath calm surfaces can pull someone off balance before they realize what is happening. Without witnesses, the disappearance feels unexplained. Over time, stories form to give meaning to loss. The idea of a presence in the water reflects how people try to understand danger they cannot see. Standing near a quiet lake, knowing how much lies beneath its surface, it becomes clear why such stories continue to echo with a sense of awe. And in the next story, that quiet water holds something even harder to explain. #22. Ogopogo. The surface of Okanagan Lake can look perfectly still, almost glassy. Then a ripple moves across it, steady and deliberate, as if something long is cutting through the water below. Witnesses have described a dark body gliding just beneath the surface, rising in smooth arcs before vanishing again. For generations, locals have called it Ogopogo, a presence said to inhabit the lake's deeper stretches. Reports date back more than a century. Large sturgeon live in these waters and can reach impressive lengths, their slow movements forming rolling shapes near the surface. Some sightings likely began there. Yet not every account has been clearly explained, and the lake's depth still leaves room for unanswered questions. #Kaxikumend Ux Silla. Ancient sailors passing through the narrow Strait of Messina faced a difficult choice. Jagged rocks stood on one side, violent currents on the other. Ships were pushed off course, scraped against stone, or pulled toward dangerous water. In Greek myth, this peril became Scylla, a multi-headed sea predator waiting to snatch sailors from passing vessels. The legend described a creature with several snapping heads, each ready to strike. In reality, the geography of the strait explains much of the fear. Powerful tidal currents meet in that narrow channel, creating sudden surges and swirling water. Hidden rocks near the cliffs make navigation risky, especially without modern tools. To those steering wooden ships through confined waters, the danger felt personal, almost alive. Giving it a face and many heads helped people describe the threat. Even today, standing near rough coastal cliffs, you can sense how quickly nature can turn hostile and why such stories endure. Hashtag 20 Cetus. After a storm, large bones sometimes wash onto shore. A curved rib, a long spine, a skull far bigger than any land animal nearby. To ancient coastal communities, such remains could only belong to something enormous. In Greek mythology, that something became Cetus, a giant sea beast sent to terrorize the land. Heroes were said to fight it, but its size always stood at the center of the story. Modern paleontology provides clearer answers. Whales have lived in the oceans for millions of years, and their skeletons can appear overwhelming when seen outside the water. Even older marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs left fossils that might once have been exposed along ancient shorelines. Without a scientific context, a massive skull suggests a living monster, not an extinct species. Yet the bones were real. They came from creatures that once ruled the seas. Knowing that such giants truly existed gives the myth of Cetus a lasting weight and a quiet sense of awe. And what comes ahead is even stranger. Not a beast rising from the sea, but something waiting where land should have been. Hashtag 19 Aspidochelone. Some sailors once told of stepping onto what they believed was a small island after days at sea. The ground felt solid at first, rough and uneven beneath their feet. Then the surface shifted. The island moved, water rolling off its sides, and the men rushed back to their boats. In old stories, this became Aspidochelone, a creature described as a turtle so vast it could be mistaken for land. Biology offers a more grounded explanation. Large whales resting near the surface can appear like dark, unmoving shapes, especially in fog or low light. Massive sea turtles, with barnacles and algae on their shells, may also resemble floating rock formations from a distance. Without modern navigation tools, scale was difficult to judge. A moving animal could easily be mistaken for part of the sea itself. Knowing such encounters were possible reminds us how easily the ocean can reshape perception, leaving behind a quiet sense of wonder at its hidden life. Hashtag Astenpad Smithhafgufa. Some whale species feed by rising slowly toward the surface with their mouths open, allowing schools of fish to drift inside before closing their jaws. From a distance, the water can appear to part, as if something beneath it is creating an opening. The movement is brief, heavy, and easy to misread in rough seas. Long before this behavior was understood, sailors in Nordic waters described the ocean itself, opening like a mouth. They called the presence Hafgufa, a creature so large it did not need to chase prey. It simply waited as ships passed above. Even with modern knowledge, encounters like these are not always clear in the moment. A sudden shift in the surface, fish gathering, and a shape rising beneath the waves can still feel difficult to explain while it is happening. Number 17. Teweke. In the waters of the Pacific, fishermen sometimes noticed long, flexible shapes drifting beneath their canoes, arms extended slowly, moving with the current before slipping back into deeper water. Maori stories gave this presence a name of Teweke, a giant octopus said to live in the sea and move silently beneath boats. Science confirms that large octopus species inhabit these waters, including the giant Pacific octopus. They can grow several meters across, with powerful arms lined with suction cups. Their skin changes color and texture, helping them blend into rocks and shadows. Because they prefer deep or hidden places, they are rarely seen clearly in the wild. Most sightings are brief, a movement below the surface, and then nothing. That mystery has allowed the legend to endure. Knowing that such intelligent and adaptable creatures exist beneath the water gives Tewek a presence that feels both real and quietly astonishing. But farther north, the up-next encounter feels even more unsettling. #16 Akorokamui. Fishermen in the cold waters near Hokkaido have spoken of a red mass moving just beneath the surface. Not a flash, not a fish, but something broader, its color spreading through the water like spilled ink. In Ainu folklore, this became Akorokamui, a massive octopus spirit said to rise from the sea and drag boats into the depths. It was not described as fast, but as immense. Marine biology offers a quieter explanation. Some octopus species can grow quite large, and many are capable of changing color dramatically. When threatened or disturbed, their skin can shift to deep red tones. In cold, nutrient-rich waters, these animals may grow to impressive sizes. Seen from above, a large octopus spreading its arms can look far larger than it truly is. The encounter is brief, and the sea closes again. Yet knowing that such adaptable and intelligent creatures move through those waters leaves a lingering sense of awe. Reefunday Pump, Morgar. Deep sea fish occasionally rise closer to the surface, especially when currents shift or their environment changes. Some are long and ribbon-like, moving in slow waves that create ridged patterns along the water. Sightings near shore are rare and often brief, leaving only a shape and motion to remember. From a distance, scale becomes difficult to judge, and what passes by can feel larger than it is. Along the coast of Cornwall, such encounters were given a name. People began speaking of Morgar, a sea serpent seen gliding near the shoreline before slipping back into deeper water. Photographs surfaced over the years, though none offered clear detail. Even now, movement in coastal waters can appear and vanish without explanation, and not every sighting leaves enough behind to fully understand what was there. #14 Cephalopods. There is something unsettling about locking eyes with an octopus. Its gaze feels aware, almost thoughtful, as if it is studying you in return. This sense of intelligence helped shape the idea of the Ceccalia, a mythical being said to be half human and half octopus, combining human curiosity with the fluid power of the sea. While no hybrid creature exists, the biological foundation is striking. Octopuses are among the most intelligent invertebrates known. They can solve problems, open containers, and remember solutions. Their nervous system is complex, with much of it distributed through their arms, allowing coordinated movement that feels deliberate. Their skin shifts color and texture instantly, making them appear almost otherworldly. Observing one in its natural environment can feel like meeting a mind that evolved along a very different path. That quiet intelligence, hidden beneath the waves, is enough to leave anyone with a sense of wonder. #13 Isonade. The surface of the sea can look calm, yet something moves below it. You do not see the body first. You notice the wake, a subtle disturbance trailing through the water as if a large shape is circling beneath the waves. In Japanese folklore, this presence became Isonade, a sea creature said to attack ships with a barbed, spiked tail rising suddenly from the ocean. Sailors feared what they could not fully see. In reality, large sharks have always inhabited coastal waters. Species like the great white or the now extinct megalodon were powerful predators built for sudden strikes. From a distance, a shark's dorsal fin or tail breaking the surface could look exaggerated, especially in rough seas. Turbulent water hides the body, leaving only fragments visible. When faced with an unseen predator below, imagination fills in sharp edges and extra size. Even today, knowing what moves beneath you in open water carries a quiet, humbling awe. And the next creature shows those fears, reached beyond the sea itself. Labing Dalawa Bakunawa. Lunar eclipses occur when Earth moves between the sun and the moon, casting a shadow that slowly darkens its surface. Today the process is predictable, but before astronomy explained it, the sight felt deeply unsettling. In Philippine mythology, this moment was linked to Bakunawa, a great sea dragon believed to rise from the ocean and swallow the moon. Villagers once made noise to drive it away, hoping the sky would return to normal. Even now, watching the moon fade and then reappear carries a strange stillness. The science is clear, yet the experience remains powerful, echoing the old belief that something vast might be moving just beyond what we can see. 11 Taniwa. In certain bends of New Zealand rivers, locals once warned children to stay away. The water there seemed darker, slower, and animals avoided drinking from it. According to Maori tradition, these places were home to Taniwa, powerful guardian creatures that could protect or harm depending on how they were treated. The presence of Taniwa gave meaning to dangerous waters. Biology provides possible insight. New Zealand's long-fin eels can grow over 6 feet long and live for decades. In murky river bends, their elongated bodies move silently beneath the surface. Sudden movement in shallow water can startle livestock or swimmers. Strong currents often form in these same bends, increasing the risk of drowning. The story of Taniwa may have served as both a spiritual belief and a safety warning. When you stand near a quiet river that hides deep currents and large unseen life, it is easy to feel that the water holds more than it reveals. 10 Hydra. In shallow water, there are organisms so small they almost disappear against rocks and plants. Yet when damaged, they do something unusual. Instead of dying, they slowly rebuild themselves. Tissue reforms, cells reorganize, and the body continues as if nothing happened. Ancient stories of the Hydra spoke of a creature with many heads that grew back when cut, becoming stronger with each attack. In biology, Hydra polyps show a version of this ability. These tiny freshwater animals can regenerate parts of their bodies and, under the right conditions, continue living for extremely long periods without clear signs of aging. Their cells constantly renew, repairing damage again and again. To early observers, such resilience would have seemed unnatural. Even today, watching an organism survive in ways most life cannot leaves a lasting impression. The idea that something so small can defy ordinary limits of life carries a quiet sense of awe about how nature truly works. #9 Charybdis. At certain narrow straits, the water does not move gently. It twists and tightens, forming spinning circles that pull objects off course. Boats entering these areas can feel the current drag them sideways, forcing sailors to fight for control. In Greek mythology, this danger became Charybdis, a sea monster that swallowed water and released it as a violent whirlpool, trapping passing ships. Modern science points to tidal currents, where large bodies of water meet in tight channels, pressure builds, and currents collide, creating powerful rotating flows. These whirlpools can appear suddenly, especially during storms or shifting tides. Without charts or engines, ancient sailors relied only on instinct and luck. A natural force that strong needed a name, a face, something that could explain its presence. Even now, watching the ocean spin with such power reminds us how alive the sea can feel, and how small a boat becomes within it. But not every danger announces itself with crashing water. Some wait in silence, and the next creature proves it. #8 Rusalka. A quiet lake at dusk can feel peaceful, almost still enough to forget its depth. In many Slavic traditions, such waters were said to hold Rusalki, spirits believed to be the souls of women who drowned, lingering near the surface and calling others toward the same fate. The stories were not loud or violent. They were soft, haunting, and tied closely to the places where tragedies had occurred. These legends likely formed as a way to remember loss. Before safety measures and swimming knowledge were widespread, drownings were common and often unexplained. Communities turned grief into stories, giving the water a presence that people could understand. The idea of Rusalki carried both warning and remembrance, urging others to respect the lake's hidden danger. Even today, standing near calm water as the light fades, the silence can feel heavy. It is a reminder that beneath the surface lies a depth that deserves caution. #7 Nukkalavi. Along certain northern shores, people once reported seeing a shape lying near the waterline, thin and distorted, almost skeletal. It did not move like a living animal. It seemed to drift with the tide, half in water, half on land. In Orcadian folklore, this presence became the Nukkalavi, a sea demon associated with sickness, death, and the harshness of coastal life. There may be natural explanations behind such sightings. Decomposing sea animals, especially whales or large fish, can change shape as they break down, exposing bone and tissue in unsettling ways. Disease outbreaks in coastal communities were also often linked to the sea, since contaminated water and animal remains could spread illness. Without medical understanding, people searched for a cause. The image of a creature carrying decay became a way to explain fear and suffering. Even now, encountering the remains of large marine life reminds us how powerful and unforgiving the ocean can be, leaving a lingering sense of awe. #6 Mokele Mbembe. Deep within the Congo Basin, the water moves slowly through swamps and thick vegetation. In these remote places, observers have described ripples spreading through still water, followed by the brief outline of a long neck rising before disappearing again. Reports speak of Mokele Mbembe, a creature believed to live in hidden waterways, large and cautious, rarely showing itself fully. Some researchers suggest that unfamiliar encounters with large animals may have shaped these stories. Certain reptiles and semi-aquatic mammals can move quietly through swamp environments, leaving only partial glimpses. The region remains difficult to explore, and many species there have not been studied in detail. A single sighting can grow into a lasting narrative when the environment hides confirmation. Whether misunderstood wildlife or something not yet documented, the idea of a large presence moving through such isolated waters carries a quiet fascination. The swamp feels older, deeper, and filled with life we may not fully know. And beyond the still water and drifting reeds, another force waits, one that does not hide, but erupts. #5 Typhon. There are moments when the sea and sky seem to merge into one force. The wind roars, waves rise, and the horizon disappears behind dark clouds and spray. Ancient cultures described such overwhelming events as Typhon, a powerful being connected to storms, chaos, and destruction. He was called the father of monsters, a presence that could shake both land and ocean. Natural events help explain how such stories formed. Volcanic eruptions beneath or near the sea can send ash and pressure into the air, while underwater earthquakes can trigger massive waves that travel across entire coastlines. Tsunamis reshape shores within minutes, leaving devastation behind. For those who witnessed these events without scientific tools, the scale felt alive as if driven by intention. Naming that force gave people a way to understand it. Even now, standing near a coastline during a violent storm reveals just how powerful nature can be. #4 Lusca. Blue holes in the Caribbean appear calm at the surface, yet below them, the seabed drops into deep cave systems and narrow tunnels. Divers have reported sudden pressure shifts and currents that pull downward without warning. Water moves unpredictably through these spaces, and visibility fades quickly, making orientation difficult, even for experienced explorers. Long before these formations were studied, stories spread of Lusca, a giant octopus said to live within the caves and reach outward from the darkness. The legend gave shape to a danger people could sense, but not see clearly. Today, much of what happens inside these underwater systems remains difficult to observe in full. Currents, shadows, and hidden spaces still conceal movement, and not every encounter leaves a clear explanation behind. #3 Sedna. In the Arctic, survival has always depended on the sea. Ice, wind, and water shape daily life, and animals moving beneath the frozen surface mean food, warmth, and survival. Inuit tradition speaks of Sedna, a powerful sea goddess who controls marine life and decides when animals rise to be hunted. She is not only feared but respected, a symbol of the balance between humans and the ocean. This belief reflects a deep cultural connection to nature. In extreme environments, respect for animals and the sea is essential. Hunting practices, rituals, and stories help communities remember that survival depends on harmony, not control. The ocean provides, but it can also take away. Sedna represents that relationship, reminding people to treat marine life with care and gratitude. Even today, in the quiet stillness of Arctic waters, the sense of reliance on unseen forces remains strong, creating a lasting feeling of reverence and awe. #2, Ryujin. There are moments when the sea is calm, the sky clear, and then everything changes. Winds rise, clouds gather, and waves build within minutes. In Japanese mythology, these sudden shifts were linked to Ryujin, the sea dragon king believed to control tides, storms, and the creatures of the ocean. His presence explained how quickly the water could turn from peaceful to dangerous. Natural forces offer insight into these stories. Typhoons form over warm oceans, building strength rapidly before reaching land. Sudden pressure changes can transform still water into violent waves. Sightings of long sea snakes moving through coastal waters may also have shaped the dragon imagery. When storms rise without warning, the ocean feels alive, reacting with intention. Even with modern forecasting, the speed and scale of these events remain humbling. The idea of Ryujin captures that power, leaving a sense that the sea answers to forces larger than anything we can fully control. #1, Sea Serpent. For centuries, sailors recorded encounters with long shapes moving beside their ships. Logbooks describe bodies cutting through waves, rising in arcs, before disappearing again. These were not always told as stories. Many were written as observations, careful notes from people trained to read the sea. The term sea serpent became a way to describe something real but not fully understood. Marine life offers several possible explanations. Large deep-sea animals sometimes rise closer to the surface when currents shift or conditions change. Distance, fog, and moving light can distort shape and size, making brief encounters difficult to interpret clearly. Even so, a number of reports never led to clear identification. The ocean remains largely unexplored, and some sightings were recorded too quickly to study in detail. What moved beside those ships may not always be known, and that uncertainty still sits quietly within the record. Which number felt the most real to you? Share it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more stories where history and the sea quietly overlap. Many of these myths began with real encounters, and with so much of the ocean still unexplored, in the next episode we'll look at the real marine creatures that may have inspired these legends.